So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728, and I wanted to talk about at least the news that's new to me, which is some of Mike Tyson's revelations from when he spent time in prison as a result of his rape conviction. And to me, some of the most astounding revelations, and I suppose maybe it's because Mike Tyson is old, and a lot of the people who would be interested in making sure, for example, that justice was served um, by taking actions as a result of what he's saying, they're probably dead. These would be like prosecutors and maybe judges and lawyers, and given Mike Tyson's age and their age that they would have to have been when he was convicted, yeah, they're probably long retired and uh, no longer in a position to do anything about it. But he was saying that he got into a relationship with a counselor at the jail, and as a result of that, he was able to reduce the amount of time that he served in prison. He also offered her, and I guess she received some monetary payments as well to help her. Um, and that cut some jail time off of well, his sentence, I guess. So one of the things that he mentioned was that he was told that if he got his GED in prison, then they would knock some time off of his the amount of time he had to serve. Unfortunately, he took the exam and he failed. So he was pretty upset about that when he was recounting that. But as a result of that, one of the counselors was like, I can help you, da da da. And I just thought, wow, that is just crazy, crazy, crazy stuff. Um, yeah. And in addition to that, he was also saying that he was told by at least one person, and it seemed to be a specific person because he was like taking the other person's position and telling him, "Hey, Mike, are you listening to me, Mike? This is what you got to do." And to me, it was hilarious because he's like, if people are coming to visit you in prison, they're going to check to make sure that they're wearing panties. But um, they might not, and they're probably not going to check to see if they're wearing crotchless panties. And the person who was telling him about this said, I got my wife pregnant 3 times while I was in prison because of this. Are you listening, Mike? Because you better be listening. Da 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 da. It just the way that Mike Tyson was imitating the other person in the conversation was just, it was funny. And he's like, when the person comes in to see you, you let them sit on your lap for a second and you pull them down onto the lap and then you go, because you're gonna orgasm quickly. So if you're gonna come quickly, it's gonna be fine. And you might, after you put them on the opposite side of the thing, you might just talk to them and then let them go. But if I were you, I would leave them there for a little while and you could talk. Maybe you're gonna get an erection again. You never know. And it was funny because he's like, you're gonna come quickly because you don't masturbate. You don't get much action in here. You don't masturbate, right, Mike? Because you shouldn't be masturbating, right? And I was like, that was just really hilarious. That Mike Tyson was just talking about it so freely. I mean, he was like, "Oh my goodness, I don't know if I should be talking about that." But once he got warmed up, yeah, he just kept talking about it. And some of the things he was saying was that, when he was in prison initially, like the first year, he was really upset because he didn't think that he belonged in prison. So he felt that somebody had to pay for him being in prison. And as a result of that, um, he was going to face more time because he was misbehaving in prison during the first year. But after the first year was up, he fell into a rhythm, and I guess he came to accept the fact that he was in there and that he should better do what he could in order to get out. And he went and he took the GED, like he was mentioning, and so on. But yeah, but he did say that on occasion he would relapse, meaning that maybe somebody might bring up the fact that, hey, Mike, you remember how you used to be in the first year, and then he would just get upset again, I suppose. And he was talking about the fact that when it was time to come out of prison, he was scared because he was used to prison. He had been in prison for so much of his life, and here he was in prison again, and he was used to it now. So it's the same way like when he had his freedom and he's going into jail, he's upset. Now he's scared because if he comes out, he's saying like, he can mess up. He can mess up and people could actually hurt him because he doesn't know what the rules are out there anymore. He's gotten kind of used to what was in prison. But he got out, and yeah, so that was it. But one he was talking about a fight that he was in. I don't know if this was before or after he was in prison, and he was saying like, I guess somebody, maybe one of these people that he had fought previously. He said he was beating up on this guy and he was hitting him, and his fist started hurting, but the guy just wouldn't go down. He wouldn't um, go down. And suddenly he was wondering where these punches were coming from because he wasn't seeing the guy's hands hitting him. And then he realized that the guy was actually headbutting him. It was crazy that you're in the middle of this thing and you're like, where are these punches coming from? I mean, I think that you just have a feeling that you don't. It's not like a comic book where every single word is elocuted, is spoken in your brain. You just have this sensation. What's going on here? And yeah, the guy was headbutting him, and but apparently the guy was on drugs. So I don't know if this is what triggered it, but Mike Tyson was saying that I guess the guy had come and ripped off a side view mirror of his car. I think maybe it was a Benz, and somebody was asking like, how expensive is a side view mirror of a Benz? And he was like, well, he wouldn't know, but he's like, yeah, and maybe $9,000, whatever. And so he got out of the car and started hitting the guy, and then I guess the guy started butting him. And at that point, at some point, the guy finally went down, and he was like, "Oh my God," because the guy's head bounced on the pavement, and he was like, "Oh my God, we need to get out of here." So as soon as he saw that happen, he got in his car and he left, and he was like, "Thank God the guy didn't actually die," because he was just so alarmed by his head bouncing on the pavement. Boom. And yeah, definitely a good thing. But isn't that crazy? I mean, that is exactly how life is. You don't intend to kill the person, but suddenly you're on a manslaughter charge because, you know, what is it? You're neglecting, you are reckless, you are engaging in behavior where you don't care what the outcome is. But yeah, you internally you're scared, but a prosecutor could get up in court and make that statement or ask somebody if they think that that was the case, and there you are. You could be on charges and tried and convicted of, found guilty of something like that. But I think this might have been over the course of several different interviews, because I did see, I don't know if this was on Hot Boxing with Mike Tyson, his podcast. I think the clip that I saw where he was talking about what he did to get out of prison was that, yeah, he was with two other people, whereas he did mention some of his past again, as he is wont to do on his podcast where he was talking to Bill Burr. And it's kind of interesting every time he mentions, you know, he's a lot smarter than people give him credit for. And I, I don't even know that he has so much of a lisp that much. Well, he has some kind of speech impediment, I suppose, but it's not necessarily the lisp that uh, we often hear when people are imitating him. But he was going over the fact that, yeah, everybody has a price, and that might have been with respect to the counselor that he gave money to in order to help um, reduce the time that he was spending in jail. And he was like, everybody has a price. And they're like, well, and he's like, well, the price isn't always money. And now that part is true, 100%. The price isn't always money. And supposedly, I'm sure there's going to be some people who, I guess they don't have a price. Um, I don't know. I don't want to come up with a scenario. Maybe I can, but I feel like I can't come up with a really good scenario in that instance. But yeah, maybe somebody wants you to stop drinking or something. I don't know. But I think I'm gonna look at some more episodes of Hotboxing with Mike Tyson. Um, I've seen one with him on Eminem, um, and clearly, as he is mentioned on the episode with Bill Burr, is a difficult person to deal with sometimes. And I think you could get that impression when you realize that nobody is telling him, hey, Mike, you need to keep the mic close to your mouth. Because a lot of times he didn't have it too close to his mouth. And I don't know who's off camera, but nobody was running in to tell him otherwise. Because he's like, only my wife can tell me. I guess that's me trying to do a Mike Tyson uh, in in imitation. But I think he had a one-man show, and Bill Burr said that he saw it, and he was like, "Yeah, I have my wife in my ear, and she's the only one who can do that." And I guess one time she got so upset with him, she just left because I guess he's on stage in whatever capacity. I don't know what exactly the one-man show is about, but